G'day guys, my name is Ben and welcome to a very special episode of The Long Gun Project. Today's episode is being brought to you by Beretta Defence Technologies, and today we are getting a very special look at a fantastic long-range precision rifle system. The rifle system that we're going to be looking at today is the Sako TRG M10, the Steiner M7 XI IFS 4-28x56 rifle scope, and the Steiner M830R Laser Rangefinder Binos. Now, I'm very fortunate to have Chris from Beretta Defence Technologies here to explain how the system works as one to get rounds downrange fast and accurately. Now, before I hand over to Chris, I'm going to cover off on the rifle itself. The Sako TRG M10 is a purpose-built bolt-action magazine-fed multi-caliber rifle system. The top-mounted Picatinny rail is canted at 30 MOA and extends the full length of the removable forend. The rifle has two different length forends and both feature the M-LOK mounting interface. The TRG M10 is available in 5 calibers: .308 Winchester, 300 Winchester Magnum, 300 Norma Magnum, 338 Lapua Magnum and 338 Norma Magnum. However, other calibers are becoming available. The stock has folding and fixed options, and the modular and configurable design allows the user to tailor the rifle to fit them, and the caliber and barrel length options allow for it to be tailored to the intended purpose. The rifle we have with us today is in 338 Lapua Magnum with a 27-inch barrel with a 1-in-10 twist. The scope really is the heart of this system, and I asked Chris to give us a rundown on both the scope and the Laser Rangefinder binoculars.
All right, Ben, this is the Steiner M7 XI 4-28x56 Tremor 3 IFS sniper scope. Steiner have been working on this for a while, and it's got a number of really unique features. Essentially, the back part of the scope has got a computer built into it that has the fire control system. That's not dissimilar to, say, your applied ballistics or other systems. However, other features that the site has is that the turrets are actually tracked electronically. So as you adjust the turret, you can actually see the correction that you're dialing as you make the adjustment. So you're able to look through the eyepiece and adjust, see what you're dialing without taking your eyes off the target, and that's for both windage and elevation. The information required by the scope to actually calculate the ballistic solution is loaded via your either Android or iPhone, and it's a simple matter of collecting velocity data and taking some measurements off the rifle, so the bore height of the scope, loading all of that into the phone, pairing the phone with the scope, and then uploading the data to the scope. Once you've got the information into the scope, there's a number of menus that you can scroll through to customize the viewing picture to meet your requirement. You're able to have a number of different cartridges loaded into the scope, so if you've got 3 or 4 different ammunition types, you can choose the one that you're going to use so that it matches what you're shooting at. The scope is able to be paired with a phone to upload and download the cartridge data, but it's also able to be paired with the Steiner binoculars, so that rather than you dialing the range that you've determined externally, you're able to laze the target and that range will appear inside the eyepiece. And all that then is required is that the user dials the elevation turret to match the range distance, and the scope's correctly adjusted for that range. The only thing that the user really then has to worry about is wind, and there's the ability to adjust direction and velocity of the wind, which will then provide you with a correction that you can then adjust either with the windage turret, or you can aim off using the reticle, whichever is easiest and whichever the user prefers. All right, these are the Steiner 8x30R LRF 1535 laser rangefinding binoculars. They've got a couple of unique features. First of all, the wavelength that they utilise to range the laser that they use is 1535 nanometers, which is in the SWIR spectre, so it's not able to be observed with conventional night vision goggles or devices. The benefit that has is that if you're using these, unless someone has a SWIR sensor, they can't see you, which obviously has significant benefits for certain groups of end users. The other thing is they have a range of approximately 6,000 meters, so in a compact package, a very powerful capability. They also have the capacity to communicate with a number of different devices using a Bluetooth module which screws in above the laser. And what they can do is communicate with the Steiner IFS rifle scope. They can communicate with an iPhone using the LRF app, and they can also communicate with a Kestrel once they're paired. So basically what that means is if you're using the rifle scope, you can laser target and the range will appear inside the eyepiece of the scope. If you're using the Kestrel, essentially the same thing, you laser target and the range appears on the target, and that provides you with a solution. If you pair the binoculars with the phone, you can update any firmware updates that come through, but you can also use the phone as a remote. So you can put the binoculars in a tripod, particularly for longer distances, use the phone to actually fire the laser, and it gives you a lot more precision.
Chris, what benefits does putting all of these features into the scope give the user?
Okay, so there's a number of benefits. First of all, it's a weather station, so it's measuring meteorological data at the firing point, everything except for wind. It's got a fire control system inside it, so you could say it does everything that the Kestrel does, but it's attached to the scope. And then really the number one benefit then is as you dial the elevation turret, you can actually see the clicks that you're dialing inside the eyepiece. The other thing that happens is that as you do that, you can see the range that the scope is then set to based on the ammunition that you've selected. So if your spotter lasers a target at 756 meters, essentially you dial the turret until you see 756 meters, and then the scope is set for that range. Now the other benefit that this scope has is that it's got an inclinometer built into it, a digital inclinometer. So if you cant the rifle left and right, you can actually see that you're doing that, and you can adjust it so that it's straight up and down, looking in the eyepiece. So you don't have to look on the side of the ring or at the base of the mount. The other thing is that if you start doing low angle or high angle, it automatically adjusts for those angles, so you don't have to compensate for that. So once again, there's no having to read an inclinometer and then make the adjustment. Everything is done inside the scope. So what that means is that you can get accurately on target very quickly, and it also means that you can have someone who maybe has less training that can get accurately on target very quickly and very precisely. I think that there's a number of benefits there. I guess, you know, other benefits also include if you're shooting at night using night vision equipment. I guess something that's always been an issue is trying to be able to read the elevation that you're dialing on, whereas with this system, you can see what you're dialing on inside the eyepiece.
Chris, can you give a brief overview of what steps are involved in taking the rifle from being freshly assembled to being ready to put rounds down range accurately?
Yep, okay, so it's really quite straightforward and very similar to what you do with a conventional sniper rifle. Basically, you zero the rifle and at the same time, obviously collect the data for the cartridge that you're going to use. You obviously need to set the turrets to zero once you've zeroed it for that cartridge. Once that's done, you load the data that you've collected into the IFS app on your phone. You then need to turn the scope on, and then you pair the phone with the scope, and you upload the cartridge data that you've entered. Once you've done that, the final thing that you need to do is electronically zero the scope. So it's just a simple matter of going to the cartridge, selecting the zero function, and pressing that button inside. Once you've done that, the rifle is then ready to go for the ammunition that you've selected.
Now it's out into the field to shoot the rifle and zero it, as well as gather the data to put into the app to feed back into the scope. Today we are using Sako TRG 300 grain hollow point boat tail ammunition. Now I have to say I was pretty impressed with this for factory ammo. It was accurate and consistent. It shot on average an 8mm mean radius at 100 metres and had a standard deviation of 15 feet per second. With all the required data collected and the rifle zeroed, we were now set for our task for the following day, a cold bore first round impact at over 1,000 metres.
RPSC target, 1 o'clock.
1,018 metres.
Roger. Target, 1 o'clock.
1,018 metres.
Roger. Aware plate, 1 o'clock.
14,15 metres.
Roger.
Well guys, as you can see, this is one hell of a rifle system. Now we were able to make our 1 kilometre plus cold bore impact with no problems at all, even with wind. But perhaps the thing that stood out to me most was the speed at which you could range, dial and engage multiple targets at varying distances. It is seriously fast, much faster than anything else I've used in the past. Now the Sako TRG M10 is an extremely accurate rifle, but it's the way that the rifle, the Steiner IFS scope and the Steiner Rangefinder binoculars all work together that makes this long-range rifle system truly exceptional. Now if you get a chance to see any of these components, I suggest you do so because you'll be extremely impressed. Guys, that concludes this very special episode of The Long Gun Project. I really hope you've enjoyed it. If you have, please don't forget to hit like, share, and also subscribe with notifications so that you don't miss an episode. Now, this episode was proudly brought to you by Beretta Defence Technologies. Thanks again for watching, and I look forward to seeing you all again on the next episode of The Long Gun Project. See you later.